let's start with this list. I've got a list of items and there's numbers associated with them. And what I'd like to do is calculate all of those and display the answer. Now I could do that by grabbing the old Texas Instruments calculator and adding them up individually and putting them there. Or I can have the computer calculate this for me all of the time. So it can take any of these variables and then just add them up and output the information to me. Now there's a couple ways I can do this. I could say equals. Now equals is how you start every single formula. So when you say equals, you're telling Excel that you're going to want it to make a calculation. You're no longer inputting just text. You're wanting something back. So I've hit equals. And what I could do is I could say B2 plus B3 plus B4 plus B5, and if I hit enter, I'm going to get my answer. So in 6B here, I've got the result of 210, and notice here that the output of 210 is being calculated with this formula that's up here in the formula bar. So keep that in mind, and it's nice and color-coded even. It's showing you where B2 is, and it's showing you where B3 is by colors. But the idea is that this formula is creating that result, but the result is not necessarily being displayed in that cell all the time. All right, so that was one way of doing this. The other way is we can use a function, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to use the sum function. And the sum function is going to require a bracket. It's going to require parentheses, and that's going to tell me I would like you to sum up all of the data in this range. So I've highlighted a range of cells, and I want you to just simply add it up and give me the output. Now, great way to teach coding here, because inside of the brackets is the cell range, but notice you have to have the brackets. If you have it on one side, you got to have it on the other side. And as the functions become more complex, you'll have lots of different bracket scenarios, and it's a great way to teach coding, because coding uses a very simple method like this to take and calculate information. All right, when I hit enter, I'm going to get the same answer. So two different ways of doing this. You can tell that the sum function would be much easier than me adding up a large range of information single and individually. So the sum function is a time saver to that other way of you might teach a student a variable using this. So I'm going to use D3 here as a variable, and I'm going to say it can be anything, and I'm going to say that E3 is also a variable, and it can be anything, and I'm going to demonstrate that to my students. And I'm going to tell them that F3, what I would like F3 to be, is the sum of D3 and E3. So whatever's in D3 and whatever's in E3 is what F3 is equal to. So you're starting to see the variable nature of this, right? The A plus B equals C kind of an idea. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to tell them that maybe D is 12 and E is 12 right now, and then I'm going to have them say equals, and I'm going to have them grab D, and I want them to notice that I'm referencing the variable, not the number, and I want it to add again the variable, not the number. So essentially what this equation is that F3 is equal to D3 plus E3. That's really the equation. F3 equals D3 plus E3. I hit enter, it's going to give me the result. Now they're also able to see the formula. Now you can have your students change these numbers and see how it interacts. And you can see that it's in every case solving that formula. It helps them sort of understand what a variable is. You're telling them that this can be anything. This number can really be any kind of number, and my computer is going to do what I told it to, but it's going to do it by the variable, not by the number that was in it. All right, so in the rest of the video series, we're going to learn about some of these really basic functions and formulas to get you kind of started on building spreadsheets here. And the formula is calculating the answer of A2, which is this cell, plus B2, which is this cell, for a grand total of this cell's output. Now, let's say I was in a situation where I inserted another number, and so I have number 3 now, and number 3 is going to be 1585. And notice that D2 did not change. That's because this formula is still specific. It's saying I want to sum up and add A2 plus B2. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm adding A2 plus B2. I need to edit that function. And the way I can edit the function is I could either type equal sign here and create a brand new function saying A2 plus B2 plus C2. That would be one way of accomplishing that, which is kind of a lot of work. Or when I've highlighted cell D2 and the functions listed up here, I can click into the formula bar. And notice my cursor has now been replaced up there. And now up there, I can add the new part of the formula. So I added the one new section to it, and I'm going to hit enter. And you'll see now that it's adding up all 3 numbers. So any formula that you might use in your document can be edited in the formula bar, but it's a lot easier to come up here and edit it than it is to recreate the formula from scratch, especially as you get into complicated formulas. So get used to not only looking at the output in the cell, but really get used to looking at this formula bar to figure out what the cell is doing so that you can make good choices when moving information or copying information or adding new information into your spreadsheet.